The morning started with nerves inside the ABC studios. The producers of The View knew something was off. Tom Cruise was coming in to promote his new military thriller, Shadow Protocol. That alone was big news. But today, the tension wasn't just about ratings. It was about control. Executive producer Carla Marino stood outside the green room, pacing, phone in hand. At 6 a.m., she had received a strange email. No sender name, no signature. It's just a short message. Priority override confirmed clearance. Wraith, subject must appear. No interference. Attached was a direct feed from a corporate network server owned by the parent company that oversaw not just ABC, but multiple global news platforms. Carla wasn't stupid. She'd seen strange bookings before. She knew when something wasn't about PR. By 10 a.m., the team had been warned. Stick to light questions. No personal or religious topics. No politics unless initiated by the guest. Tom Cruise arrived at 11:20 a.m. sharp. He stepped out of the black SUV with security, wearing a crisp navy suit, black shirt, and no tie. His face was calm, smooth, but behind the sunglasses there was something else: tension. He barely greeted the crew, simply nodded, and walked to his private prep room. His assistant handed Carla a firm message. Mr. Cruise will not do a pre-interview. He will speak only during the live segment. No changes. In the studio, Joy Behar rolled her eyes. I don't care who he is. If he wants to sit here and pretend we're stupid, I'm not playing along, she said to Whoopi Goldberg, adjusting her notes. You want a light interview, you call someone else. I ask questions. That's my job, Whoopi replied calmly. Just don't start World War III on live TV. The live broadcast started at noon. The audience cheered as the hosts walked on stage. Joy, Whoopi, Sunny, and Sarah took their seats. The set was bright, the music upbeat. And then Tom Cruise entered. He walked out smiling, waved to the crowd, shook a few hands, and sat down beside Joy. For a moment, everything looked normal. Tom, welcome. Joy opened, cheerful but direct. You've got another world-saving blockbuster on your hands. Tell us about it. Tom nodded. Thanks, Joy. Shadow Protocol is about a covert peace mission that turns into something much darker. It's about secrets. It's the kind that governments keep even from their own soldiers. The crowd clapped. It was controlled, charming but stiff. Whoopi asked about the filming locations. Sarah joked about Cruise doing his own stunts. Everyone laughed, but Joy was quiet. Watching halfway through the interview, Joy leaned forward. Smile on her face faded. The tone of the room shifted. Tom, she said, locking eyes with him, you've made a career playing heroes, men who fight for peace, for justice. But there's something people don't understand. How do you reconcile promoting peace in your films while supporting a secretive organization accused of global interference? There was a long silence. The audience didn't clap. The crew froze. Tom's smile disappeared. He stared at Joy. His body didn't move, but his eyes sharpened like a weapon locking on a target. You're talking about Scientology, he said, voice low and calm. Joy didn't back down. I'm talking about power, hidden power. Influence in places it doesn't belong. Behind the camera, Carla's headset lit up. Shut her down. Cut the feed. But it was too late. Tom leaned in slowly. You want the truth? He asked, almost whispering. Joy nodded. Always. Tom took a breath. The room felt like it had stopped breathing. Then let's talk about the Oslo files. Silence. You could hear a pin drop. Carla stood frozen in the control room. The name wasn't in any script. Not on any prep sheet. Not in the press notes. But she had heard it once, late at night. In a classified debrief when she worked a temp job in military broadcasting, Oslo Files wasn't a movie title. It was a restricted term. The camera held on Cruise. He didn't blink. Joy, he said, voice steady, there are files. Hidden from the public. Hidden even from most in Congress. They detail a joint program between media, military, and select cultural organizations programs designed to manipulate public perception. Not for safety, for control. I was part of it. Gasps echoed across the audience. Some thought he was acting. Some thought he'd lost his mind. Joy sat still, shocked. You're saying I'm saying this isn't just about religion or film. It's about operations. Operations that started after 9/11s, that crossed borders, used actors, influencers, journalists, all to guide narratives. Why now? Joy asked, her voice suddenly softer. Why say this now? Tom's eyes dropped for a moment. Then he looked back at the camera, because this is the only platform left where the cameras are still live. Back in the control room, Carla's screen went black. The feed was being rerouted, censored. Producers screamed. Phones rang nonstop. Legal teams were already in motion, but Tom was still talking, still on screen. The Oslo files, he said again, hold the proof. They show how truth became entertainment. And how entertainment was turned into a weapon. Joy stared at him, her face pale. Then suddenly, Cruz stood up. We're done here. He said he ripped off his mic and walked off set. The show cut to commercial, but the damage was done. Millions had seen it. The internet was already exploding. Then, the name Oslo Files was now public. Whatever happened next would change everything. The internet exploded minutes after Tom Cruise walked off The View. Clips of him saying, "Let's talk about the Oslo Files" spread across social media like wildfire. People were confused, shocked, and suspicious. Was he telling the truth? Was it a movie promotion stunt? Or something more dangerous? Inside ABC's control room, chaos had erupted. Executive producer Carla Moreno was yelling into her headset. Why was the feed cut? Who authorized that blackout? No one answered her. Every screen went black at the same time. A remote override. She had seen that once before, years ago, during a high-level national security broadcast. But this wasn't a government address. This was a celebrity interview gone off script. The network's senior legal counsel arrived 10 minutes later, pale and sweating. We've been told not to comment, he said to the room. This came from upstairs. No footage is to be released. Archive logs are being scrubbed. Cruz is now classified as a hostile variable. Carla stared at him. What? Hostile variable? He repeated. It's part of a protocol. Wraith. That name again? It had been in the original email that forced Cruz's appearance, Clearance Wraith. Carla had assumed it was a production code. Now it felt like something darker. Meanwhile, Tom Cruise had disappeared. According to security, he never left through the studio's front exit. Surveillance footage showed him walking down the hallway after the interview, then nothing. 1 second he was there, the next gone. His black SUV remained parked. His assistant was nowhere to be found. But at 2:13 p.m., a strange video surfaced online. It was grainy, handheld, recorded in a hotel elevator. In the video, Tom Cruise stood next to a man wearing a military-grade earpiece and a dark green jacket with no insignia. Cruise was speaking fast in a hushed voice. She took the bait, but they're watching now. We have 2 hours. Get me to the vault. The video cut off after 7 seconds. The press immediately labeled it a hoax. But intelligence agencies didn't. By evening, 3 government agencies, the CIA, DHS, and an unnamed Pentagon cyber division, were already involved. Internal chatter among senior intelligence staff revealed something chilling. The Oslo files were real, and they were never meant to be spoken of publicly. According to a leaked internal memo from the Cyber Defense Council, the Oslo files were part of a long-running covert information warfare project meant to influence narratives in film, media, and culture. Cruise had been a willing participant at first, but somewhere in the early 2010s he began to pull away. Apparently, Cruise had seen something in 2011 during a classified film shoot in Eastern Europe. Something that made him turn. Something involving children, proxy wars, and psychological warfare campaigns used on American citizens. He had tried to warn people before, but every time it was spun as a PR meltdown or a Hollywood breakdown. Back at the View, Joy Behar sat alone in her dressing room. The door was locked. Her phone had been taken. A junior producer named Elijah slipped in quietly. "They're coming for you," he said softly. "What do you mean?" Joy whispered. Whatever he said out there about the Oslo files, it triggered something. Legal's been told to scrub everything. Security is locking down the footage. They even disabled the backups. But I saved a copy. He pulled a small data drive from his sock. I ripped the raw feed before the cutoff. Full segment, Cruise. The look on his face wasn't acting. He's scared. Joy, and if he's scared, we should be terrified. Joy looked at the drive in her hand. Remembered the way Cruise leaned in, how his voice had lowered and something behind his eyes had changed. He wasn't selling a movie, he was opening a door. "I need to talk to him," she said. "Good luck," Elijah replied. "No one knows where he is. But if he went dark, it means he's moving fast. My guess, he's heading to Geneva." "Why Geneva?" Elijah took a deep breath. "Because that's where the vault is." Joy raised an eyebrow. "What vault?" "The one that holds the master files." In the background, a security alarm sounded. Someone was trying to breach the editing suite. Joy grabbed her coat, shoved the drive into her pocket, and whispered, "Call a car. We're leaving now." Meanwhile, in a hidden underground parking lot 4 blocks from the studio, Tom Cruise stood with a phone to his ear. He was breathing hard. The plane touched down at Geneva International Airport just after 5 a.m. Tom Cruise stepped out, wearing a dark hoodie and sunglasses. No entourage, no security. Just a small black backpack and a manila envelope tucked under one arm. The Swiss. Morning was cold, but his mind was burning. He was about to do something that could change everything. Back in New York, Joy Behar was also on the move. She sat in the back of a black SUV with tinted windows, holding tightly to the USB drive. Elijah had given her. Her phone buzzed. It was a burner she'd been handed just before leaving. A message flashed on the screen. "Do not go home. Trust no one. Geneva 8:45 a.m. flight. Meet at drop point." Delphi Joy didn't ask questions. She understood now this wasn't about a celebrity meltdown or TV drama. It was bigger. Something had been hidden for decades, and Tom Cruise was risking everything to expose it. At a quiet hotel in Geneva's Old Town, Cruise checked in under the name Martin Reeves. The receptionist didn't blink. This city was used to men with fake names and serious eyes. Once inside his room, he locked a door and opened the envelope. Inside was a set of codes and a map hand-drawn, with a red circle marked near a building labeled Institut Helvétique pour la Paix Stratégique. It translated to the Swiss Institute for Strategic Peace. That building had once been the headquarters for an unofficial NATO civilian archive project, Project Nocturne. It was where the Oslo files had last been stored. The files weren't digital. That was the point. They were paper, film reels, physical photos. They couldn't be hacked. They had to be stolen. Cruise picked up the hotel phone and dialed. "Delphi," he said. The voice on the other end replied. "Instantly confirmed. Drop initiated. Window closes in 7 hours." Then the line went dead. He didn't waste time. Meanwhile, at 35,000 feet in the air, Joy sat silently on her flight to Geneva. The other passengers had no idea that a well-known American talk show host was sitting among them with evidence of a classified breach. She kept looking at the USB drive. She hadn't dared plug it into anything. For all she knew, it was bugged, tracked, or worse. She remembered Tom's words on live television. "You want the truth? Let's talk about the Oslo files." He hadn't meant to drop a teaser. He meant to sound the alarm. As the plane crossed the Atlantic, U.S. government Agencies scrambled. At a Joint Intelligence Command Center in Virginia, multiple red alerts lit up on the main screen. Cruise has landed in Switzerland, a young analyst reported. Behar's en route too. Another confirmed. They're converging. The room's supervisor, a man known only as Granger, leaned forward. Activate Echo 4. If they reach the Institute, the vault goes hot. Do you know what that means? His second in command hesitated, but, sir, it's a civilian building, diplomatic zone. Granger didn't blink. If those files go public, you're looking at 40 years of covert influence ops. False flag media campaigns, global destabilization, all exposed. This isn't about protecting Cruz. It's about protecting the world from what he knows. Back in Geneva, Cruz made his way through winding cobblestone streets toward the Institute. The building was quiet, gray, unassuming, just like it was designed to be. He entered through a side door using an old metal key he'd been given years. I'll go by a former NATO contact. Inside, it was cold and dimly lit. No guards. No staff. Just rows of dusty filing cabinets, boxes, and secured safes. He walked to Vault 9, the one labeled Oslo Phase 3. He stopped. Someone had beaten him to it. The vault door was open, and inside, several boxes were gone. Cruz scanned the room, heart racing. Then, from the shadows, a voice. You're late. He turned fast. It was Joy Behar. She stepped out, holding one of the boxes. You didn't think I'd come all this way just to watch, she said quietly. Cruz stared at her, eyes wide. How did you get in, Elijah? He gave me more than the drive. He gave me the second key. They looked at each other for a long moment. Old distrust fading into urgent partnership. I want the truth. Too, Joy said. Not just for TV. For real, Cruz nodded. Together, they opened the box. Inside were documents stamped with red ink. Operation Wraith. Media influence strategy. Civilian compliance models. And photos of world leaders in confidential meetings with studio executives and intelligence officers. At the bottom of the box, a single videotape labeled Directive 7R, Psychological Control. Testing 2004 Camp Snowfire. Cruz's hand shook as he picked it up. That's the one, he said. Then a sharp click. Behind them, 3 men in black combat gear stepped into the vault, rifles raised. Put the tape down. Now, Joy froze. Cruz's eyes hardened. He took a deep breath. You don't scare me anymore, he whispered. He grabbed the tape and ran. Tom Cruise ran through the cold hallways of the Institute, clutching the videotape tightly. Behind him, boots hit the ground hard. Shouts echoed off the stone walls. Joy Behar followed close, panting but focused. Where are we going? She shouted. To the tunnel. Tom yelled back. He turned sharply down a narrow hallway, pushed open a hidden door behind a shelf, and ducked into the darkness. Joy followed without thinking. The door slammed shut just as the armed men reached the hallway. They pounded on the stone, but the two had vanished. Inside the tunnel, there was silence except for their breaths and the distant dripping of water. The passage was ancient, built decades ago during the Cold War as an escape route for NATO operatives. Tom pulled a small flashlight from his backpack and flicked it on. Do you know what's on that tape? Joy asked, her voice trembling. Tom slowed down and looked at her. It's worse than what we thought. It's not just about influence or propaganda. It's about control, psychological control, she guessed. Tom nodded. They tested mind-altering script scenes in movies, lines of dialogue, designed to cause emotional manipulation on a mass scale, to calm people, to agitate them, to distract. This tape shows one of the original trials on real civilians. Unauthorized, illegal, and covered up. Joy stopped walking. We need to get this to a journalist. Someone outside the U.S., someone who can go live fast. Tom looked down. There's one person I trust. She's in Berlin. Meanwhile, at a Swiss airfield 20 miles away, the 3 masked agents regrouped. One of them, Agent Myers, radioed into command. They escaped through the West Tunnel. We believe they're heading to Berlin. Granger's voice came through the earpiece, flat and cold. No matter what, that tape cannot surface. Authorize. Protocol, Nightshade. Target, both. Copy that, Myers replied. Back in Geneva, Tom and Joy emerged in a forest outside the city. Tom led them to an old, rust-covered motorcycle hidden under brush. He pulled it free, wiped off the seat, and handed Joy a helmet. You ever ride one of these? Joy smirked. Only in college. And that one didn't smell like gasoline and secrets. Tom laughed just once and then they sped off toward Germany. Hours later, they reached the outskirts of Berlin. The city lights glowed like a promise in the distance. But Tom didn't go to the center. Instead, he steered toward a quiet neighborhood in the north. There, they pulled up to an old bookstore with a faded sign. Still Wart's silent words. Inside, a woman waited. Mid-50s, silver hair tied back, her eyes sharp. Her presence calm and firm. Anya, Tom said. She didn't speak. She just hugged him. Joy looked around. The store smelled like old paper and coffee. Nothing suspicious unless you knew what to look for. Tom handed Anya the tape. She turned it over slowly, examined the label, and her face tightened. You've done something dangerous, she said. Yeah, Joy replied. That's kind of our thing now. Anya led them to the back, down a staircase and into a private screening room. Thick walls, no windows, 2 projectors. A single desk. She placed the tape into the reel. No phones, she warned. No recorders. We watched this once. Then I decide what to do. The screen flickered. First, there was a military Camp 2004, a snowy, isolated base in Alaska. Camp Snowfire. Then people seated in a tent. Civilians, some looked confused, others drugged. A man with a clipboard asked them questions while scenes from movies played on loop. Explosions, romantic reunions, riots. Quiet family dinners, one. Scene made them cry, another made them panic. Then the man flipped a switch. The screen turned blue and a strange symbol appeared. Joy covered her mouth. Tom looked sick. The man said something chilling. Test group Alpha shows 89% emotional override. The visual algorithm works. One woman screamed. Another collapsed. Then the screen went black. Anya stood still. After a long pause, she whispered, This is real. Tom nodded. It always was. Joy sat down, stunned. They used films to train emotions, to guide people without them knowing. Anya turned to her old computer. She began uploading the tape through a secured relay. I'll send it to 3 reporters. 1 in Iceland, 1 in Nairobi, and 1 deep inside the BBC. Tom raised an eyebrow. You trust the BBC? Not really, she said. But I trust their rivals to watch them. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Anya froze. They're here, she said. Outside, black SUVs pulled up. Armed men jumped out. Tom checked the back exit. Too late, he muttered. Then he looked. At Joy, we split up. No way, she said. You've got something I don't, he said, handing her the notebook from Vault 9. The hard documents, if we lose the tape, these still matter. Joy took them slowly, understanding. What he meant. I'll lead them out, Tom said. Anya handed Joy a hidden door key. Go now. Joy hesitated only for a second. Then she ran. Joy Behar ran through the narrow Berlin alleyways, her breath sharp in the cold air. The notebook Tom had given her was zipped tightly inside her coat. Her phone was off. Her heart pounded with every step. Behind her, she could hear voices. Agents shouting in German and English, boots hitting cobblestones, vehicles pulling around corners. She ducked behind a dumpster, waited for a second, and then cut across a quiet street into a flower shop's back entrance. The old woman arranging. Roses behind the counter looked up, startled. Before she could say a word, Joy held up the key from Anya. "Tunnel," Joy whispered. The woman nodded and opened a trapdoor beneath a shelf. Joy slipped inside and vanished into the darkness. Above, the agents stormed past. Meanwhile, back at the bookstore, Tom Cruise was holding off three men with nothing but a metal rod and fast thinking. He flipped a heavy bookshelf down onto one of them, then kicked the other into the wall. The third agent raised a weapon. But before he could fire, Anya smashed him from behind with a brass globe. Tom gave her a quick nod. "We've got minutes," he said. "Upload status, 40%, she replied. Tom took a deep breath. "We'll hold the line." In the hidden tunnel beneath the flower shop, Joy walked carefully, guided by faint light strips on the wall. It was an old resistance route used by journalists and spies during the Cold War. She reached the end of the tunnel and found a metal staircase that led up into an apartment complex. At the top, a small door opened into a modest, flat-filled with computer monitors. A man in his 30s with sharp glasses and a messy desk looked up. "You're Joy Behar?" he said. "I've been expecting you." "Tom told you?" He shook his head. Anya did. "I'm Elias, Digital Secure Line Editor, Nordlicht Collective." Joy pulled out the notebook and placed it on the table. Elias stared at it like it was radioactive. "No one's seen these files since Oslo." Joy raised an eyebrow. "You mean the Oslo files?" Tom said something. Elias cut her off. "They're not just rumors. They're blueprints for a psychological architecture. Written by think tanks, approved by governments, hidden in entertainment. You've got pages that prove the earliest versions." Joy was quiet. Elias opened the notebook carefully. Inside were diagrams, timelines, and symbols. One page marked. Program Amethyst showed a web of connections between film studios, intelligence contractors, and data companies. At the center, a circle labeled Wraith. "What is Wraith?" Joy asked. Elias replied, "A real-time audience heat map system. It tracks emotional response from facial recognition during live screenings. Tied into predictive behavior models, started as marketing, became something else." Joy stepped back. "And Tom was part of this." "Not willingly," Elias said. "They used actors as pawns. Some resisted. Tom tried to blow the whistle years ago, but they buried him in lawsuits and distraction." Joy thought about all the interviews over the years, all the charm, the deflections. Suddenly, they seemed like armor, not ego. "Can we release this?" she asked. Elias shook his head. "Not directly, but we can drop pieces. An open source leak. Let the truth scatter before they can bury it." Back at the bookstore, the upload hit 82%. The agents were trying to break down the front door now, using a power tool. Tom stood ready, blood on his face, chest rising fast. Anya handed him a flash drive. "This is the backup, just in case. You take it," he said. "No, if I die, no one notices. If you die, the whole world watches." Tom hesitated. "You think they still care?" Anya gave a sad smile. "You're still a face they trust." Whether you like it or not, the door splintered. At that moment, a loud siren blared from the street. Police, but these weren't normal Berlin police. These were EU intelligence. Responders alerted by Anya's emergency beacon. Case standoff erupted. Gunshots. Shouts in German. Tom and Anya ducked behind shelves as bullets flew. In the chaos, the upload hit 100% sent. Anya shouted, but her celebration was cut short by a sharp sound, a silenced shot. Anya dropped to the floor. Tom caught her. "Go," she whispered. He looked into her fading eyes, nodded once, and ran. That night, Joy and Elias sat in the apartment, watching the first wave of the leak go live. Files appeared unmirrored. Sites encrypted drops and anonymous forums. Independent journalists began reacting. "The Phoenix Directive is real," one posted. "Hollywood was the smokescreen," another wrote. "Look for the symbol in old films. It was there all along. As people started connecting dots, Elias turned to Joy. "It started," he said. "They'll deny it at first. And they'll panic. Then they'll try to distract the public with a bigger story." Joy asked, "And what if they succeed?" Elias stared at the screen. "Then we find the next tape." Because there's always another tape. At that moment, her phone vibrated a message from an unknown number. "Still alive, headed to Zurich. Tell the world." Joy exhaled, smiled faintly, and whispered, "You're not done yet, Tom." But across the ocean, in a sealed government meeting room in Virginia, a red file landed on a long black table. The label read, "Project Wraith Breach Confirmed." An official in a gray suit looked up grimly. "Activate silence protocol," he ordered. The storm was just beginning. Zurich. Cold rain washed over the cobbled streets as a black car pulled into an underground parking garage beneath an old banking tower. Tom Cruise stepped out, wearing a gray trench coat, cap pulled low, eyes scanning the shadows. He moved quickly to the elevator, tapped a code on a hidden keypad, and descended. 5 floors below ground. At the bottom, an old vault had been converted into a secure room. A single bulb flickered overhead. 2 people were waiting, a tall Swiss journalist named Freya and an aging ex-intelligence analyst, Dr. Leon Strauss. Tom dropped the flash. "Drive onto the metal table. It's all there," he said. "Amethyst, Wraith, the media triggers, and the Oslo signatures." Dr. Strauss turned pale. He had once been part of the early development team behind predictive emotional modeling, tech designed to read public moods and shape content responses in real time. It had started as harmless marketing, but was quickly absorbed by military intelligence groups during the early 2000s. This confirms the Copenhagen loop," Strauss whispered, flipping through decrypted files. "They weren't just studying emotions. They were feeding synthetic reactions into content pipelines. Reverse propaganda, disguised as entertainment." Freya looked over the documents. "And now they've used actors, directors, even talk show hosts to deliver it." Tom's jaw tightened, including me, without knowing. A long silence followed. Freya broke it. "And the leak." Tom nodded. "Joy and Elias got the first wave out, but it's only fragments. If we want the public to believe the full story, we'll need the Phoenix file uncut." Dr. Strauss stood. "Then we have to go to Brussels." Tom looked at him, confused. "Why there?" "Because the original backup tapes, the real Oslo footage, are kept inside the EU Central Archive. Deep restricted vault. They never trusted the Americans with a copy." Tom exhaled. "Then we go." But they weren't the only ones moving. Inside a private satellite monitoring station in Langley, Virginia, a red light blinked. An analyst traced a data packet sent from Zurich to a secure Belgian node. He raised the phone. "We have movement," he said. "Target en route to Brussels." The man on the other end, a government contractor from the Atlas Group, gave a cold order. "Deploy operative Viridian. Intercept before public release." Back in Berlin, Joy Behar was still hiding in Eliza's flat. She was tired, emotionally drained, but her fire remained. The leaked files had gone viral, but so had disinformation. Major media outlets were split, some calling it a hoax coordinated by conspiracy theorists, others quietly investigating. A segment ran on a European late-night show. Did Tom Cruise walk off The View because of Joy Behar, or because he tried to expose the largest psychological operation ever run through global media? Joy turned to Elias. "They're spinning." They always do," Elias replied. "But the footage you got, the look in Tom's eyes, it hit people. He wasn't acting." Joy's phone buzzed. Another message from an unknown number. "Need you in Brussels. Bring Elias. Hotel Union, room 314T. She looked at him. Time to move. Meanwhile, in a black SUV crossing the Swiss border into France, Tom watched passing headlights blur through the rain. Strauss was reviewing maps of the EU Archives building. Freya stared ahead. Do you think they'll let this go public? Tom shook his head. No, they'll bury it, or destroy it, or turn it into a joke. That's how control works now. Not with bullets, with distraction. She nodded. Then we beat them at their game. The hotel in Brussels was plain, almost to normal. Room 314 was on the 4th floor. Tom opened the door to find Joy and Elias already inside. No hugs, no greetings, just tense eyes and fast conversation. Elias handed Tom a new encrypted hard drive. This can hold the full Phoenix file, but it only decrypts once uploaded by someone inside an accredited press outlet. Tom nodded. We get in, we get the file, we get out, Joy asked. And then what? Upload it to the public, Freya interrupted. No, we live stream it with your face on it. The world trusts you more than faceless leaks. Tom looked uncomfortable. I'm not the hero in this story. Joy leaned in. But you're the only one they'll believe. Suddenly, Elias's laptop blinked. Incoming trace, he said, alarmed. We've been found. A second later, a small device on the windowsill exploded. Not a bomb, but a signal jammer. The room went dark. The elevator hummed as it descended deep into the belly of the EU Central Archives. Tom Cruise stood still, heart pounding, the encrypted drive hidden beneath his jacket. Freya stood beside him, clutching a press badge, her eyes locked on the small screen above the elevator doors, level -6. They had 20 minutes, maybe less. Outside, the city of Brussels was quiet, but trouble was closing in. Joy Behar and Elias were waiting inside a parked van 2 blocks away, monitoring. Comes Elias's laptop showed movement to unmarked vehicles approaching the perimeter of the archives facility. Elias's face tightened. They're here. Who's they? Joy asked. Elias didn't blink. Atlas Group, private intel contractors. Black budget operations. They clean up when governments want deniability. Joy looked toward the building. Then Tom's walking into a trap. Inside the archives, Tom and Freya reached the final level. The corridor was dim, lined with thick concrete walls and locked doors. At the end stood a large steel vault marked Restricted Access Level Omega. Freya pulled out an old security card borrowed from a retired EU data officer. She swiped it. Red light. Access denied. She swore under her breath and tried again. Red, again. Tom looked around. We don't have time for this. Then, surprisingly, the light turned green. The door clicked open. Freya frowned. That wasn't me. They entered carefully. The room inside was cold, filled with rows of magnetic data reels and digital backups dating back decades. At the far end, a single labeled case glowed under the weak light. Phoenix file -2000 for to 2016. Internal use only. Tom moved toward it quickly. As he opened the case, he found an older format drive and a backup SSD. He inserted the SSD into their laptop, fingers flying over keys. A loading bar appeared. Decrypting, 23%. Freya watched the door. We need 5 more minutes. Meanwhile, on the street above, Operative Viridian stepped out of an armored vehicle. Earpiece in, eyes focused. His voice was flat. Target is below ground. Entry in 60 seconds. In the van, Elias saw it all. He turned to Joy. We can't just sit here. Joy grabbed her phone and opened a live stream app. Then we go live. Wait, are you... Sure, Joy didn't wait. She tapped start broadcast and stared straight into the camera. Hello world, this is Joy Behar. I know this looks crazy, but right now, Tom Cruise is underground inside a government archive in Brussels, trying to retrieve a file that could expose the biggest media cover-up in history. If you see this, spread it, share it. Because if we disappear, this is why. Within seconds, thousands were watching. Then tens of thousands. The live stream jumped platforms, mirrored by independent journalists. Inside the archives, Tom watched. The stream light up the corner of the screen. Freya gasped. They're doing it. They're forcing transparency. Tom smiled faintly. Good. The decrypt bar hit 99%, then froze. An error message blinked. Secure channel conflict. Decryption blocked. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Tom cursed. They're overriding the power systems. Gunshots echoed from above. Viridian and 2 operatives had breached level -4. Freya's hands shook. We have one chance. Upload from here. Live through the press network Joy tapped into. Tom nodded. He rerouted the data pipeline, bypassed the security wall, and hit transmit. The screen flashed, uploading. Outside, the world watched as the data began to flood the live stream. Images, videos, memos, instructions on emotional scripting in film dialogue. Financial ties between entertainment giants and psychological warfare departments. Names of politicians, actors, and even late-night hosts flagged as either cooperative assets or emotional disruptors. Joy Still Live began reading them. Here's one memo from 2013. Subject TC is unaware of full activation, but remains a high-value empathic amplifier best deployed in national crisis narratives. That's Tom Cruise. People around the world stared in shock. Tom's face was on the screen. I was used, he said, voice raw. Not to entertain, to control you, to hide the truth, no more. Suddenly, the archive doors slammed open. Viridian entered with a pistol raised. Step away from the system. Tom stood between Viridian and Freya. You'll have to shoot me on live global feed. Viridian hesitated. The stream had crossed 4 million viewers. One of his operatives whispered, Sir, we're exposed. Viridian's hand trembled, then slowly lowered the weapon. He turned and walked out. In the van, Elias and Joy collapsed in relief. It's over, Elias said. No, Joy replied. It's just starting. Later that night, the story made every major news outlet. Tom Cruise exposes global propaganda machine live on air, Joy Behar livestream. Goes viral, triggers global investigation, Wraith systems shut down after leaks. Tom disappeared from public view for a while. He was last seen in a small coastal village in Greece, walking alone, no cameras in sight. Joy returned to the view months later. Different, calmer, but not quiet. Elias became a consultant for whistleblower protection systems. And the world changed. Not all at once, but something had broken open. Not because of violence, but because, finally, someone refused to lie on live television.